Hi, and welcome to one of our nutrition wellness seminars. This one is Highway to Health, the Gut Brain Axis. This is all about understanding food and mood and their relationship. My name is Peyton Drefsinski. I am the Behavioral Health Program Administrator. I also oversee our Veterans Connected program. I thank you for watching this and being here today, and I look forward to what we're going to cover in this webinar. So some of the things that we're going to touch on today, first we're going to define what the gut-brain axis is. Then we'll cover how it works. That includes brain, mood, behavior, and nutrition. We will review and we will have a short closing. It's going to be a quick one today. First, I always like to start with a quote. I have Hippocrates, who is the father of medicine, and he says all disease begins in the gut. And while, of course, it's not always this black and white, I think this quote from somebody so notorious in the medical field is a great way to start and talk about the priority of gut and nutrition when treating all sorts of mental and chronic illnesses. This might be, right, an illness like cancer versus an illness like PTSD. These two things, they both are fed literally by what's happening in our gut. And so we do have control in some way over our nutrition and how that impacts our disease worsening, our disease bettering, or at least our pain management, our mood management. All of those things can be impacted by nutrition. And of course, there are going to be things that are out of our hands. There are things that we can only seek through surgery or through assistance from doctors or the benefit of talk therapy. But we can look at our nutrition and what we do at home in our control to benefit, worsen, or adjust our gut health. So first, the gut-brain axis is a descriptor of the relationship between our gut and our brain. So this is the network of nerves that connect our brain to our gut. And these two send signals back and forth to each other, meaning that the food that we eat that hits our gut will impact your psychological, behavioral, cognitive, sensory, perceptive, interoceptive, and psychosocial functioning. And these are some very long and confusing words that essentially means things like our mood, our memory, our connection to our senses, our perception of what's going on, our ability to see, read, and respond to situations, and our connection to reality, and our psychosocial functioning, which refers to our ability to interact with other people, right? Our humor, our conversationality, these types of things are all impacted by this gut-brain axis. And in this relationship between our diet and our psychology, there is evidence that suggests that nutrition and gut health can impact symptoms of mental health conditions like depression and anxiety, and even more. But these two are some of the largest and most common mental health conditions. And it's really worth noting how all of our microorganisms, trillions of them to be specific, in our digestive tract produce things called neurotransmitters. Those are like serotonin or dopamine. And these are the things, the chemicals that go to our brain and they trigger things like happiness and joy. And without serotonin or dopamine, that is where we start to feel feelings like fear and sadness and loneliness and discomfort. So the things that we are eating can actively work against symptoms of depression and anxiety. And as we know, depression and anxiety, they make us feel withdrawn, maybe isolated, fatigued, worried. They can even have physical reactions to those things. But what we're putting into our body, and specifically what types of microorganisms hit our digestive tract, can produce chemicals that work against those things. So this does not only apply to physical conditions, our nutrition impacts our mental and behavioral health conditions as well. A little more about this relationship. Something I want to say, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide, and it's a major contributor to the overall global burden of disease. So, depression can also exist as a result of chronic illness. So, having a different diagnosis can mean the occurrence of depression as a result of that chronic illness that you experience. So, something like heart disease or diabetes is connected to results of depression because of how it changes your quality of life, often restricts you from things, it could put you through physical pain. And so depression is bigger than any of us are treating it to be. There's still a huge stigma around depression, and we need to do whatever we can to be breaking that stigma and working on this within ourselves, even preventatively. If you don't already have a diagnosis of depression or major depressive disorder, there's a possibility down the line that you might develop that as a result of your chronic illness. And we also should be ready just to face depressive symptoms because that's something most people experience, especially if they have a co occurring condition. So, first, for those living with chronic illness, food is especially important to prevent feelings of depression because, like I said, chronic illness can result to feelings of depressiveness. You might be more isolated in your home, you might be more socially withdrawn, you might be experiencing pain, you might want to go to sleep and have less energy to wake up and live your routine as normally. Mood. Sugar, something like sugar, might perk you up. So you might be looking for a pick me up and go for a sweet treat or a soda. But the crash after sugar, sugar crash, contributes to poor mood. So that is where, after some time after consuming a large amount of sugar, you will experience a crash, a depressive feeling, sadness, maybe anxiousness or exhaustion. Then there's behavior. When we choose nutritious meals, like God's Love We Deliver meals, this is a behavior change. So we are challenging ourselves to adjust some of our habits. For instance, like a sugar pick me up, if you're used to going to a soda, right, when you might be feeling down to have a pick me up, changing something up, like choosing a source of fruit instead, is a great example of a change in behavior that now you're challenging your habits and you're rewiring your routine. And then finally, we have nutrition. So things like omega-3 fatty acids, which you can find in fish, nuts, seeds, these promote anti-inflammatory effects and they help improve your improve your mood. So these are a few examples of how our brain, mood, behavior, and nutrition can all be impacted by our choices along this axis. And we'll go into a few more. So diets high in processed ingredients and inflammatory foods can impair our brain function and lead to impulsive behaviors. So we're going to look a little bit more specifically at diet and behavior together. So highly processed ingredients and inflammatory foods are often things that people might call junk foods. Now, I don't love that wording. I don't think we should be referring to food as junk, but there is some value in addressing how much processing has this been through and what nutrients is this food actually bringing to the table. Because if you develop a strong pattern of eating mostly processed or inflammatory foods, then your brain function is going to be affected. And one of those things is impulsive behaviors. So maybe that part of your brain, that frontal lobe that assesses your development and your judgment, that might be impacted by these food choices. And in the West, we often prioritize highly processed, high fat, high sugar, and high salt foods. If you look at sodium contents, sugar contents, or fatty contents of a lot of the processed and packaged food we eat, it's incredible how much we include in our diets here in the West. High protein foods instead improve your concentration and your focus. So, looking at your protein content or trying to evaluate what foods bring protein to the table, what might you be able to build into your diet to improve concentration and focus. Refined carbohydrates can lead to blood sugar spikes, which cause mood swings. So, looking at how many carbs you're eating, some people go for a low carb diet that can cause more mood stability. If you feel you're experiencing mood swings, try maybe keeping a food journal and tracking your carbohydrates to see if your blood sugar is spiking and crashing. In behavior, we have medically tailored meals, like what we do here, that encourage other positive behaviors. So, having one person in your home receive medically tailored meals and prioritize nutrition is often the start of a trickle down effect to having other people in the family adopt similar behaviors, or just changing your mindset in general to think more about what you're eating when you're not having a meal. And finally, diets that are rich in fiber, like whole grain salads, support steady energy and steady moods. Fiber is great. Fiber is great for your regulatory system to have consistent bowel movements. And it also is great for your energy and your mood. Keep you from feeling too fatigued and keep you from having high and low mood crashes. Our dietary intake directly impacts how we think, how we remember things, how we pay attention, how we reason through situations and employ our judgment, and also how we make decisions. So, this brain function aspect is really affected by our diet. And as we get older, this is particularly important because things like our memory and our attention are naturally impacted by age. So, to start, your brain needs consistent nutrition and hydration to function at its best. Consistently having a nutritious diet as well as prioritizing hydration is very, very important. Your brain needs that consistency so that it can regulate itself. Going a day without water and then over drinking water the next day, your brain is not functioning at its best. It is functions at its best when we give it a consistent diet to operate off of. So in the summer months, most people drink more water, but in the winter, it can be much harder to prioritize hydration. I encourage you to think about what drinks you are drinking. Maybe you are having a soda or a tea or a coffee, and consider when you could incorporate water as well into your routine. Maybe that includes some substitutions. You could try to set a water goal and hit it every day in ounces. And for our mood, preservatives, like things in fast foods, increase our cortisol levels. This makes us feel feelings of anxiety or worry. So, being high in cortisol might mean that you're feeling more anxious. Or if you're somebody who's already prone to anxious feelings or generalized anxiety disorder, this can worsen those symptoms. So, preservatives can be found in fast food or some packaged foods as well. And that is what can cause that cortisol spike rather than compared to natural foods that don't need preservatives to last longer. For behavior, it can be a little bit difficult to do things like getting out of the house or engaging with other people in social ways when our nutrition is neglected. So, when you neglect your nutrition, you might be feeling weaker, again, more tired, unable to exert the energy that it takes to go for a walk or to go out to see friends or family. But these are very important for our wellness, particularly spending time with others in a social setting is really great for your memory long term. So it's a great idea to be incorporating even a conversation over the phone into your daily routine. Any way you can spend time with people, it will improve your memory long term and prevent memory loss. Magnesium and vitamin B6 help regulate your cortisol levels, which I mentioned before in preservatives, and that can reduce some stress related tension. You might even feel physical effects of stress sometimes makes our muscles feel tight. When you say you might have a knot, that can be from stress. And magnesium, vitamin B6, these things reduce your cortisol levels and can literally relax you as well as internally. And then we have our sensory perceptive relationship, DSPR, with diet. So this encompasses dietary intake and the information that arises from our senses. So when we see, smell, hear, touch, or taste something, we're communicating that psychologically. And also, there's an impact with our diet. So this includes how we process and we make sense of the information that we sense in all five of those ways. So, for instance, our brain consumes about 20% of our body's energy. We funnel a lot of our energy into our brain. So, we need that nutrition that we're eating to function our brain. And colorful meals wake up your brain. You can think about it like that. The more colors on your plate, that is going straight to your brain. So, colors can come from things like fruits and vegetables, right? Think about the rainbow. In this photo here, you can see some gorgeous color as well. If you look down at your plate and everything's all one color, consider adding in something different. And for mood, this is about what we tell ourselves and changing our perception. If you tell yourself that you are having to give up your favorite meal or one of your favorite snacks because it's not nutritious, you will see that as a loss. And instead, we can try to reframe our perception and see things like having vegetables or having fruits as additions instead. Your outlook in life involves your symptoms of depression if it's positive. So people who are more optimistic versus people who are more pessimistic, right? Are you a glass half full or glass half empty type of person? And we want to be glass half full about how we adjust and approach our nutrition. So when you're thinking about omitting a meal or omitting a snack in favor of something more nutritious, you might feel like, oh, I have to give this up. But instead, think about, oh, I get to add in something more nutritious, and that's good for me. And think about it from an optimistic point of view. And that perception will literally impact how your body reacts to it. It's incredible. When you're not enjoying a meal from God's Love We Deliver, you can try to choose a meal that looks similar. So over time, as you eat our meals, you become accustomed to what they look like, right? You'll have some sort of protein, multiple forms of vegetables, and you could try to mirror that when you're having a meal that is not ours. And finally, spices are a great way to zest up our meal, literally, but also have some inflammatory response. So turmeric, bay leaves, ginger, oregano, parsley, basil. These are all used in our meals. If you're receiving our meals, you're getting these spices, but these help to reduce inflammation. So if you have these in your home, you can add them to meals that you're making, and you might be able to reap those benefits. And what you eat with your friends and your family really matters. We're going to talk about your diet and your psychosocial relationship. So, what you grew up eating tends to become a habit, right? We eat sometimes out of nostalgia. And I know personally, a lot of the things I ate when I was younger were not very healthy, but I still like to go back to them because it brings us comfort. It's familiar. Sometimes it's easy. And you get good feelings like nostalgia and comfort and reminiscing when you eat things from your childhood. But for our brain, we want to try something new. Trying something new is an opportunity to challenge your senses. We just talked about what you can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, right? And at least trying something new for food is an opportunity to get a new smell, taste, and touch, and even sight. It's a new challenge to try to cook or prepare something and a new way to explore. It can bond you to other people that you do it with, but really it strengthens your neural connections from your brain to your senses. And then that can be shared with other people. Don't miss out time to talk with your family or friends. You want to be able to discuss your diet, how it improves your mood, share this information with people that you know. That's an opportunity for conversation, which is great for your cognitive development. And for behavior, Thanksgiving and the winter holidays are usually a time of tradition, and that involves a lot of desserts and sweets and big foods, right? You don't have to give these up. Just consider your portion, consider your moderation during the holiday season. And finally, consider another way to eat your family's favorite food and consider what you can swap. So, in this example, we have swapping in avocado instead of mayonnaise on a sandwich because avocado can improve your blood flow to the brain, protect your brain cells. It's a healthy fat versus mayonnaise, which does not bring many nutritional benefits. So consider, I still want to have this. It's something that means a lot to me, or it's one of my favorites. But what is one small change I can do to add in some nutrition or make that more colorful? And if you're watching this, obviously you are a meal recipient and you are interested in being a meal recipient and you are somebody who's curious about our meals. And this is just a great sum up of how our meals and nutrition like ours in general can impact more than just our physical health, but also our mental health and the strong relationship between our brain and our gut. We're proud of what we do here and we're proud to do it for these reasons. And in summary, what you think your body wants is not what's always best for your health. We have to get comfortable recognizing our cravings, recognizing our desires, and figuring out what we want to say yes to and what we don't, right? Some people eat when they're bored. Some people eat for feelings like comfort. And we have to consider, what do we go to in those times? Do we need to eat at those times? Or can we choose a more nutritious option? And remember when you're eating that what you put in your stomach goes right to your brain. Doing something new, like trying a new form of vegetable, builds neural connections, which protects your brain. Nutrition also stabilizes your blood sugar. If you're somebody who's prone to blood sugar spikes or crashes, if you're somebody with a diabetes diagnosis, this is a very important point. And you don't have to give up your favorites unless advised by a doctor too, but you can eat smaller quantities, make substitutions, or eat in moderation on special occasions. Please enjoy your holidays, enjoy your time with your families, enjoy your favorite meals and your favorite snacks, but just consider the balance. And quality ingredients reduce your flight or fight response, which also reduces your anxiety and your depression. Flight or fight is a response that we experience when we're under stress or fear. And quality ingredients help ward off feelings like that. Again, they make us more stable. They make us make more rational decisions, have increased memory, feel more confident in our socializing with other people. And these things will reduce this response in people and make you feel calmer, more stable, more energized, have better memory, better relationships with others, better communication from your brain all the way down to your gut and back. I wanted to end today with some contact information. We have our client services department. You can call with any issues with your meals or your delivery or any questions about forms. This is my name and my email that you can reach me at. And then I also have Katie, who is our community education RDN, and she's reachable at this email and this phone number. Thank you so much for being here today and for watching this. And I appreciate Thank you so much for being here today and for watching this, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for being here today and for watching this webinar. I hope it enlightened you to a little bit of the world of nutrition and what we are very passionate about doing here. We offer nutrition counseling at any time, and we would love to expand our services to be clearer about the relationship between nutrition and physical and mental chronic health conditions. So please reach out with any questions. Thank you for watching this and have a good day.